external declaration of the DTDs. So what are the different building blocks? Like elements, tags, entities, and it should have one root element. So we have seen the past character data and character data and different types of entities. How do you declare the elements using elements? And this is one of the example we have seen for the document type definition. So this is how you define your DTD, and it can be used across multiple documents which has the same kind of format. So we have also seen the attribute list like fixed, required, implied, and we have seen the parameter entity as well as declared entity. So declared entity will be like this. So if you have more than one line of if you have more content, then you can have the external entity as well, and it can be in a remote form like entity name, system, and file location where your entity is actually located. So parameter entity, it can be declared in a DTD. Generally, we use this type in our DTDs only. Have this, meaning we have this to be replaced. So namespaces, we have discussed about the names, importance of the namespaces. So if we are actually trying to combine more than one document, in that case, if both the documents have the same kind of tags, like you have a name in one XML document and name attribute, some name element in the another XML document, to avoid the conflicts, we use this namespaces. Okay, so this is an example which we have referred to. This is one namespace and this is another namespace. Okay, cap is referring to this particular website, capitals, and XML NS is the prefix here. Okay, so using this, we can differentiate between the names of the states as well as name of the capitals. Okay. And we have seen the XML schemas. So why we are actually using XML schemas over DTDs? So DTDs has certain deficiencies, like due to which we are going for schemas. So DTDs doesn't support proper syntax as well as this doesn't support namespaces. When we are working with large amounts of documents, it will be it will be a problem for us to deal with. And also it doesn't have any data types for names and attributes what we are using in our XML documents. For certain reasons, we are actually using schemas. So schemas are very similar to DTDs, but it will provide some more advantages over the DTD. Schema fundamentals. So documents that conform to schema rules are considered instances of that schema. So whatever the documents you are working on, if they conform to the schema rules, like if they obey the rules that is given by the schema, particular schema, are considered to be the instances of that schema. We call them as an instances, objects. Like you have already seen in your JavaScript, right? So we call certain things as the schemas. And schema purpose are structures of the instances and data types of the elements and attributes. Okay, these are for these two purposes. We are actually going for a schema. It specifies the structure of its instance XML documents, and it also specifies the data type of every element and attribute of its instance XML documents. And schema support namespaces. Okay, and the schema language itself is a set of XML tags. So inside the schema, we have again a set of XML tags to actually define the set of rules. And the application being described is another set of tags. So if we are writing any particular, talking about any plane data or some car data, some kind of objects we are talking about or application we are talking about, it is again some set of tags. So today's class we are going to understand about how do we define a schema as well as defining a schema instance and the data types. Okay, what are the different data types we have, and how do we validate the instances of the schema. So, defining a schema. The root of an XML schema document is the schema tag. That is what the root is, and we have certain attributes like XML-NS attribute, like you have seen earlier, right? XML-NS colon capsum. So this will be always the prefix here. So this is one of your attribute for the schema namespace and for the namespace being defined. So whatever the namespace being defined, for example, here you have seen, right? We are defining a namespace here, like cap. For that, you have to use this XML-NS attribute and a target namespace attribute declaring the namespace being defined. So I'll just attach an example here. We actually write it using some prefix, okay, and target namespace. So every XML schema itself defines a tag set like a DTD and which must be named with the target namespace attribute of the schema element. So this target namespace is specified by assisting a namespace to the target namespace attribute, which can be seen as follows. So this is how you use this attribute. So this itself acts like a namespace. So event form default attribute with the value qualified to indicate that all the elements defined in the target namespace must be the namespace qualified either with the prefix or default when used. So here what happens, just want to add one more line. So every top level element places its name in the target namespace. So whatever the elements we are dealing with, the top level elements from the root of the, what it does is like it places its name in the target namespace, and if we want to include the nested elements, okay, we must set the element form default attribute to qualified. So if we set this element form default to qualified, some kind of src is equal to some path. So we need to set the element form default is equal to qualified if we want to include the nested elements from the top, okay. And the element form default attribute with the value qualified, this one, to indicate that all elements defined in the target namespace must be the namespace qualified. Like we can either use with the prefix or default when used. So if you want to use for a particular nested elements, you use this like, which is the source of unprefixed names in the schema. It is given with another XML-NS like this. So if it doesn't have any prefixes like XML-NS colon cap or something without the prefixes, the default namespace will be like this. Hence, let's see one example here. And the target namespace, you can the default namespace for this document. So inside this target namespace, we can have the non-top level, that is the nested elements written inside this with element form default is equal to qualified. Okay. Here, an instance of a schema must specify the namespaces it uses. So whenever we find this instance schema, so it must specify the namespaces it uses. What are the different namespaces like XML NS, colon, cap or colon something. It has to specify here. And these are given as attribute assignments in the tag of its root element. Okay. Defining the default namespace. You can see here. So this is the syntax. How do you do? XML NS attribute declares a namespace for an element and its descendants. Element, XML NS, its prefix and the URI. And the element itself may not be in the namespace and multiple elements may be defined. We can have the multiple namespaces defined. Please go through this URL for more information on XML schema instance. Includes one attribute schema location, and that attribute value is pair separated by spaces, and each pair consists of a namespace and the location of the file that defines that namespace. Okay, this one, and the location of the file where it defines. So this is how you actually declare a namespace for its element and its descendants. So here we can see that these are given an attribute assignment in the tag for its root element. Okay, defining the default namespace, like you have some plain schema, you are talking about planes. So then you have some XML NS as this URL. Like default will not have any prefixes as we discussed before, and it is the root element of an instance document is for the schema location attribute. Okay, and specify the standard namespace for instances. XML schema instances, you can have a standard namespace for this instances like XML NS XSI. So XML schema instance, you are specifying some standard namespace here and you are giving the URL. Okay, like this is the standard schema instance URL. Okay, this is what the standard we will use, and this is we are talking about the plains XML plain schema which we have defined. Okay, this is your standard namespace, and you can see right URL w3.org. This is a standard schema namespace, and specify the location where the default namespace is defined. So this default namespace might be defined in some place, right? For that location we will use the schema location attribute XSI standard XML instance colon schema location. Okay, where it is actually located. This is located in this particular XSD. Okay, XML document you have read where you defined your set of schemas. Okay, that is the document. Yes. Now we are talking about the different data types. So schema data types, you have two categories of data types here. Simple data types with string content and complex data types with element, attributes and string content. Like simple, you have only strings, but you will not have any attributes or nested elements. Okay. Whereas complex can have attributes as well as nested elements. So primitive and derived predefined types. These are the predefined types. Primitive, I think you are well aware, like string, boolean, float, as we discussed in our JavaScript, the similar way. And derived, it has like byte, decimal, and positive integer. So these come under derived. XML schema defines actually 44 data types. Okay. So this derived user-defined data types, which are derived data types, specify the constraints on an existing type. Okay. So here, constraints are given in terms of facets of the base type. So here, user-defined derived data types specify the constraints on the existing type, then called as base type. We call it as. So I just try to paste here. In terms of the facets of the base type. For example, here you have an integer. Integer data type has star 8 facets, so it has certain things like total digits, max, inclusive, so etc. So these are kind of a derived data types which has certain restrictions imposed on it. And we when we see the primitive types, it is different. We have the string, boolean, float, and we do not have any restrictions over it. Whereas the derived user defined data types especially have these things. Okay. And both the simple and complex types can either be named or anonymous. Okay. And it is defined the global elements. Context of the reference here is irrelevant. Like, but constant of the reference is essentially in the XML schema. So we have like both it will have, like for simple as well as complex type we have. And also data declarations in an XML can be local, which appears inside an element that is the child of the schema, and global, which appears as the child of the schema. So you have two data types in a XML schema, like either local or global data declarations. When we come to the simple data types, so named types can be used to give it the types of an attribute, which must be simple, or an element, which may be simple or complex. So element, for element we can have either simple or a complex. For attributes it must be simple. Elements or attributes with simple type may have a default value specified. So we can have certain default values here. use the element tag and the set the name and type attributes. Okay, we are setting the name bird and type as this one is your data type. Okay, and the instance could be a bird. Okay, whatever the name you are using, right? Instance could be this thing. An element can be given default value using the default attribute. Okay, bird default value we are giving as eagle. So this is how your basic declaration of a simple type. So data types is specified like this. Okay, this is how you define a simple type. So we have seen here, right? Elements or attributes with simple type may have a default value specified. Okay, this is the default value. So basically, first you have created an element here of data type bird, and it can have an instant like this. Inside the bird, you can have yellow belly sharp circle. It's like a kind of a description, like instance of the particular element, and you can have a default value for this. Using the fixed attribute, so you can either have a default value or constant one value here, fixed, so like kind of mandatory. Next, new simple types can be defined by restriction of the base types. Facet, max length, facet, precision. So here these are kind of a restrictions we are imposing on a base type. Okay. So for this I will show you an example here. How do we do it? Simple type. Okay. And the name is first name. And restriction base is you are restricting on like it has to be a kind of a string, and max length value. Facets value are specified with the value attribute. So this is the value attribute, and facets must be specified in the content of restriction element. So you have to write this keyword restriction, XST restriction. The base should be the string format, string, the data type or kind of you are imposing, right? Whatever restriction you are imposing, it has to be a string or kind of different data types. So here definition of the complex type can specify elements in the content either in a sequence or choice, and individual elements may specify a multiplicity, like we have seen, right? Plus, star, question mark. So individual elements, like for age plus we have seen in our earlier examples, attributes that can appear for an element of the type. You can have a specified, you can specify the attributes for that element, and whether the plain text is allowed in the content, a mixed type, like for example you have some attribute and a plain text. So an element definition can be associated with the type by referring to the named type directly in the type attribute. So you are writing some type attribute, right? Referring to a named type and including anonymous type definition. So this I'll explain you with the help of an example. So you have to make sure like we use the sequence tag for the nested elements that must appear in a particular order. In this complex type, we use the simple as well as like use the nested elements also. So we have to make sure like they are properly nested and use all the tag if the order is not important. We can use. And nested elements can include the attributes that give the allowed number of occurrences. Okay, we have seen the occurrences like unbounded, max, minimum. This is the declaration. How do you do it? XST complex type, and this is your new name. You're talking about some sports car, and you have started the sequence. So element in the content, either sequence or choice. Okay, you are starting the sequence, and element make type. You are using the data type as string here, and again these are the four different elements you are using. So we are telling like an element definition can be associated with a type by referring to the name type directly in the type attribute. Here we are using the type attribute, right? So earlier how we have used, we have used like this, right? Earlier type is equal to that particular data type, whereas here you can use the type attribute with referring to a name type, whatever the name you want to use, right? Here make type, model type, engine type. So what are the different types of elements you are going to use? You can have it as specified by this line. Okay. As well as you can include some anonymous type also, even if you like which doesn't have any name. Okay, anonymous means. Validating the instances of the schemas. So um, we have seen the schemas and we have understood the instances of the schemas, like an objects of the different schemas and various systems for validating the instances against the schemas. This is the online website URL we have, and this XML schema provides a definition of a category of the XML documents. XML support libraries that include Access from Apache, Saxon, Alto, XML tools. So these are the certain validation tools we have, and some IDs have automatic validation. IDs are nothing but the editors which we are using for the development, right? So those IDs will have a default automatic validation. So it will be taken care by the IDE itself. Like Eclipse is one of the integrated development environment. IDE, the full form is like integrated development environment, where we are actually trying to code our like start a project and include all our code. So certain IDs will use the schemas to provide support for XML file creation. So this is one of the feature offered by certain IDs. Displaying the raw XML documents. Plain XML documents are generally displayed literally by the browsers. Firefox notes that there is no style information. So when you have typed some XML document, when you see the output, like we have seen the W3C examples, right? You have seen a plain information, plain text of information. So that is nothing but it's provided by the provided as an output by the browser, and it does not have any style information. Okay. Now that we are talking about still the raw XML documents only, we are not like this is a kind of raw HTML we have seen, right, without CSS. Like that, till now we have discussed about the raw XML documents without any styles or colors applied to these documents. So now we are trying to display the XML documents with the CSS. So how do we do this? Like as in HTML, we use the XML style sheet. Type is equal to MIME type. You remember the MIME types, right? Text slash CSS and href. So using this external file, you can have the CSS, uh, you can have the styling for your XML documents. XSLT style sheets. Extensible style sheet. So a family of specification for transforming XML documents specifies how to transform the documents, this particular XSLT, and XPath specifies how to select the parts of the document and compute the values. And XSLF4 specifies a target XML language describing the printed page. So it tells us like how the printed page language should be. And XSLT describes how to transform the XML documents into other documents such as XHTML. So using this particular XSLT, it describes how to for transforming the XML documents into other XML documents like XHTML. And XSLT can be used to transform to non-XML documents as well. So it can also transform to non-XML documents as well. So basically, XSLTs are nothing but which can transform our XML documents. Extensible style sheet language transformations, we call it as completely. Okay. And this is a language which helps for transforming XML documents into another XML documents or formats such as HTML for web page and plain text or XML formatting objects. Like PDFs also you can convert. This time I have provided one URL. You can quickly go through this. You have XSL, Extensible Style Sheet Language, which is styling for XML documents. Okay. XSL means XSLT means it's a language. Okay. For XSL transformations stands okay. Language. This XSLT language helps you to transform the XML documents into another HTML documents or XHTML, whereas XSL is like a styling language for XML. So this is how previously you have seen for XML schemas XSD, right? So here you will see XSL because it's a style sheet again. So this document appears like a plain text. Okay. Style sheet. Okay. Overview of the XSLT. So XSLT is a language for transforming, as we have seen here, and a functional style programming language. Basic syntax is the XML itself. There is some similarity to LISP and schema. So this is another language. And XSLT processor takes an XML document as an input and produces the output based on the specifications of an XSLT document. So what should be the output will be based again on the specifications of the XSLT document. So like JavaScript parser, okay, we have the XSL processor. This is how the structure is. XSLT document, XML document. So this XSLT document will define, like it's a language, right? So it's a function which defines like how the converted document should be. So these two will be processed by the XSLT processor here, these documents, and the result will be XSL document. So this XSLT structure will contain the templates. And XPath is used to, XPath is nothing but you can consider it as a child of XSLT only. And it is like, it takes some portions of the document, like is used to specify the patterns of an element to which the template should apply. And the content of the template specifies how the matched element should be processed. For example, you have classes, right? For one particular class, you have defined a function. So that function will be applied to that particular class. Like that, XPath also has some templates, like XSLT document has templates, and it will help for all portions of the templates how the processing should be done, how the output should be. An XSLT processor will look for the parts of the input document that matches a template and apply that content of the template when match is found. When particular match is found, it will apply those changes. Template driven works with highly regular data, and data driven works with more loosely structured data with a recursive structure like XML documents. We have two models here. Template driven works with a higher regular data, and data driven works with more loosely structured data with a recursive structure. So we'll see the example here. You have a style sheet type text slash XSL and href, where is the actual location. XSLT style sheet can be associated with an XML document by using a processor instruction. So we'll see this example. Slash XSL, and we are actually referring to planes2.xsl. Okay, so here we have some plain information, year, model, color. Okay, so for each tag, what is the different types of style that has to be applied, we will define in the XSL plain2.xsl. Okay, and style sheet for this XSL plain.xml using implicit templates. So how we are using templates here, you'll understand. So this is your basic like doc type you are doing, right? You need to use this style sheet version and this namespace as XSL. This is the standard like XMLNS w3.org. This is the standard transformation URL. This is for the HTML conversion. And the template for the whole document, XSL template match of plain. If plain is matched, then you have to get these things like transformation we are doing right now. Airplane description for year, XSL value of select. If it is a year, that what should happen? If it is a make, if it's a model, if it's a color. Like you have seen, right? We have year, make, model, color. So respectively, Similarly, it has some, we discussed about plain information, right? So it has some breakfast menu for food. Okay. For body, so this is basically an XML, right? For XML, we are using the XSL transformation. So the output should be with all these colors. For body, it should be the color. For select means for breakfast menu, inside this, we should have this color or styles. We have this. So we are iterating through different elements, okay, and trying to transform the XML documents with the XSLT. So here you can observe. For body, we have this color, background color, okay, and this is for the div span. So this value we got it from the XML document. So whatever styles we have given, see. So based on the name, based on the price, okay, based on the description and all. So this particular styles has been applied and the conversion is done here. This is your standard XSL which you have to include to transform your page. Rating because it's a very simple information. You can apply the respective XSL. So how do you actually write the structure is you should start with an XML and define whatever the content you have. Now using the external style sheet, you have to include the whatever XSL you want to transform. Okay. So this is your thing. And inside this, you can write the transform as well as this is the template model which we have seen in the PPT, right? XSL template match of if it is a plane, like it will match with here. Okay, this is one model. So if it matches, this particular text will be displayed on your output like style sheet for XSL plain.xml. Okay, and for here this style will be applied, and for so if it matches like it's a plain.xml, then immediately all these styles for the four attributes of the XML will be applied. Okay, and respectively this is for make, this is for model, and this is for color. Last one is for color. You can try out that example. We have seen the same stuff as an example. So here we have seen XML and as XSL, not format actually. We have seen the transform, right? Similarly, we can have a format as well. And the elements in XSLT itself will have a prefix XSL. Okay. And elements for XHTML will have no prefix, default namespace. So for HTML also we have seen in our example, right? It will not have any prefix. So templates we have seen in our example, if it matches, okay, that particular plane it will consider. For example, if you have a multiple XMLs, like kind of a nested XMLs, see I'll show you the example once again. So based on this, it is matching here, match plane, that particular template. So if you have another object here, some kind of person, so inside the person, for example, I have some attributes like this, some stuff. Okay, if this template matches person, then that respective thing will be executed. That is what it means. Hash to match the root node of the entire document structure, and root tag to match the root element of the document. So for match expression, we have certain standards here. Okay, and the first template is applied automatically, and the other templates are applied only in response to apply template elements. The thing is, apply the matching templates to the elements in the plane. Okay, XSL apply template slash, you can do either this way, apply templates. So whatever it will match, it will apply. Template matches of year. You can just specify this thing, apply templates, it will automatically make a match and it will apply. So earlier you have observed, right? You have taken select year, select make, but in this example, you are actually using select dot. Okay, so this will be taken care by this apply templates. Based on the matching, it will take the respective one and it will do the assignment. Templates and the dot which we have seen in the earlier example. So here XPath expression beginning with the slash specifies the node in an absolute position relative to the document node. So whatever the document root node we are considering, right? So this XPath expression. So XPath is actually a kind of a portion of the XSLT language which try to access the parts of the page and apply the specified styling or some kind of structure. Okay. Otherwise, the expression specifies the nodes relative to the current node, that is a node being processed before the matched node. So, here, as we have seen in the example, the expression dot refers to the current node. Okay, to choose which node should be matched to the templates. So, what is your current node here is your for value of select dot the above the before node that you are actually trying to process, right? That is year. Okay. So this particular apply templates will use the, sorry, my voice was breaking actually. Give me a moment. I hope everyone can hear my voice now. It refers to a current node, and the apply templates tag which we have seen uses the select attribute to choose which node should be matched to the templates. So it makes sure like we are talking about year or model in our plains.xml or something. So there's a default template applied if one is not provided that matches a selected node. So if it doesn't matches any of the selected node, then in that case some default template will be applied. Like for a switch statement you have seen, right? If it doesn't match any of the case, it will go to the default one. In the similar way, here also the same thing happens. So this example we have already referred. Elements are not belonging to the XSLT and other text will be copied to the output and the containing template is applied. So the value of tag we have seen, that value of select causes the select attribute value to be evaluated and the result is put in the output. So this tag we have seen in our example XSL plain.xml. XSL transforming the XSL plain.xml into the XHTML for display purposes. So here we have seen the value of select and a current node which is denoted by a dot and the apply template. These are mainly for transforming like match. Again we have some match templates. We have the apply templates. Two forms we have. Rules like if the style sheet is in the same directory as the XML file, some browsers will pick up the transformation and apply it. Kind of a uh, relative paths we can understand. If both the files are in the same path, how it will behave. It will pick up automatically and transform and apply it. If it's in another folder, we have to use some dot slash or something, and we have to take care of the attaching the particular file location. And this works with Firefox and Internet but not Opera. So this kind of can be observed in the Firefox and Internet Explorer. Processing repeated elements. So from this slide we shall see in our next class as we are running out of time. So we'll continue from slide 42 till 49 in our tomorrow's class, and as well as we will discuss. So mostly HTMLs and CSS you can have some hands-on and see the output. Here you will not observe much differences because it's of mostly a what we say you don't have something to represent. So it is more of an understanding where you want to work on the data so that it can be pushed to the front end in a form of a URL. So if this particular XML transports the data, okay, is useful for transporting the data like data exchange and all. So please make sure that XML you have to clearly go through the concepts as it is more of a theoretical things. So HTML and CSS you can do enough hands on. So thank you all. Bye.